Hi friends, today I'm going to discuss about Azure storage and various options available on Azure. Let us jump into the topic. So these are the various storage options available on Azure: Azure Blobs, Azure Files, Azure Queues, and Azure Tables, and Azure Disks. You can also call it as blob storage, file storage, queue storage, table storage, disk storage. So there are plenty of advantages with the storage. First of all, what is the storage? So the storage is a place where you can save your files or the variety types of data you will be able to save. So it's very similar to the storage you have on your external hard disk or your internal hard disk, the same thing, but here you are using that from the Azure cloud. So what are the main advantages with Azure storage? Durable and highly available. So high availability is taken care by Azure, as it is a managed service. You are not going to take care any of that. So secure, it is very secure, though you are just putting your complete data on your cloud storage. Still, that is completely secured by roles and responsibilities, authorization, authentications, encryption mechanisms, and highly available because they take the replicas of the same copy into multiple locations. So it is also scalable because if your requirement is keep on growing for storing lot of files or different type of data, then whenever you want that to be scalable, it is ready to do that. And it is managed by Azure. You don't need to worry about the scalability, security, high availability, disaster recovery. All those things are taken care by the Azure, as it is managed service. Coming to the accessibility, so you will be able to access through different channels. For example, like if you want to access the files, there is a storage explorer where you can directly access all the files. You can either upload or download to your local storages. At the same time, it also provides different types of APIs, example REST API, to access that particular storage either from your applications or from other channels. So plenty of accessibility channels available. Let us check these options more deeply. So Azure Blob, you might have heard about blob type. So what is blob type? Usually blob type is a collection of binary data stored as a single entity in a database management system. It's binary large object, right? It is a bit similar, not exactly the same, but Azure Blob Storage is object storage solution for the cloud, which is managed service. So blob storage is optimized for storing massive amounts of data. It could be unstructured or just as text or binary data. So all those data types can be stored under the blob storage. So even Azure Data Lake Storage, if you heard of, which comes as part of the big data architecture, even that can Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 can use a blob storage as one of the option to store that huge amount of data, like petabytes or hexabytes of data under the Azure Blob Storage. So this is one of the big analytics solution storage you can consider as. The next one is Azure Files. So Azure file shares can be mounted by the cloud or on-premises deployments of Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. So these particular files which are on the file shares can be accessed through SMB protocol, which is server message block protocol. So if you are already aware of file servers in your infrastructure, then you must understand very easily Azure Files. This is just replacement of your on-premises file servers or NAS devices. So instead of storing those files on your file servers, you can just move them to the Azure Files by using the Azure File Sync service. The next one is Azure Queues. Azure Queue is a messaging store for reliable messaging between application components. Assume that you are creating an enterprise architecture on your Azure, and then you need to continuously message between all those components. Then you should have some kind of queuing messaging mechanism that you can fulfill with the Azure Queues. there is one more option, something called Azure Service Bus. So you can compare both queues and service bus and choose one of them. So it allows for synchronous message queuing between application components. Coming to the Azure Tables, it's a NoSQL store. You can consider Cosmos DB, or you can consider Azure Tables. Again, you can check pros and cons of both, and then you can see which can be better for you. So yeah, it's a basically NoSQL store for schema-less storage of storage data, allow you to store structured NoSQL data in the cloud, providing key attribute store. So it's basically a NoSQL. And coming to the Azure Disk, Azure disks can be attached to your VM machines as a block level storage volumes. So it allows data to be stored persistently and accessed from an attached virtual hard disk. So if you have gone through my Azure VMs creation, as part of that we were attaching the external disk. So the same thing, you can attach this Azure disk. Let us go through use cases of each storage. So when you can use Azure Blobs, if you want your application to support streaming and random access scenarios, if you want to be able to access application data from anywhere. So in my case, I was building a web application and I was hosting that web application on the app services. So when I was hosting on the app services, there were like some media files, videos, images. It will be like expensive if I have to store all those images on the app services server. And moreover, it will be keep growing with a huge amount of file sizes and file count. So in that case, I used Azure Blob Storage to store all my images and video files, and we were accessing that particular file system and folders from my web application. That's how I used it. So you may have different scenarios where you need to consider Azure Blob Storage. And even as I mentioned earlier, for the enterprise data lake, you can consider Azure Blob Storage, and also for the big data analytics architecture. The next one is Azure Files. So if you are going to lift and shift your application to the cloud, and that uses the native file system APIs to share between it and other applications running on the Azure. If you want to replace your on-premises file servers or NAS services, NAS devices, definitely Azure Files is one of the option, or it is only the option. You want to store development and debugging tools that need to be accessed from any virtual machines. So if you want to access your debugging tools from virtual machines, then this could be one of the option. Azure Queues, as I mentioned, if you want to have some messaging queue system, then Azure Queues and Azure Service Bus are the two different options. Both are used in two different cases. Like I also mentioned here, if your application must store over 80 GB of messages in a queue, then you have to consider Azure Queues rather than Azure Service Bus. Your application wants to track progress for processing a message inside the queue. This is useful if the worker processing of message crashes. A subsequent worker can then use that information to continue from where the prior work left off. Even in that case, your required server side logs of all the transactions executed against your queues. So these are the different cases where you can consider Azure Queues above Azure Service Bus. So basically, it's a asynchronous messaging system which communicates between different applications. So Azure Tables, if you want to store flexible data sets like user data or for web application, you can definitely use, as I mentioned, you can consider as a NoSQL database instead of considering SQL Server or MySQL relational databases, or maybe MongoDB or something else. If you are considering, you can also have a look at Azure Tables. Azure Disk, so it's nothing but your mounting device for your VM. So that is one of the use case. The other one is if you want to lift and shift applications that use native file system APIs to read and write to persistent disk. These are the different use cases where you can use all these storage types. So And under that we have different redundancy options. For each storage there is a redundancy option to protect your data in different scenarios. So there are 4 different options available on each storage type. So locally redundant storage, that is the first one, LRS, ZRS, GRS, and RGZRS. So locally redundant storage, zone redundant storage, geo redundant storage, read access geo zone redundant storage. Okay, so these are the 4 different options available for your data. You don't need to do anything, you just need to select this redundant option, then internally that will take the replicas of those copies. For example, if you select RS, definitely it will be cheaper than any other option. It will take 3 copies of your data and stores it locally. So the SLA is 11 nines. It's a huge amount. That means like you may get some minutes of downtime in a week or in a month, and it protects your data against server rack and drive failures. So each storage may be under the rack. So in case if one particular rack get problems due to the power failure or system failures, but your data still protected because it is the backup or the redundant of the data is available in the other rack. Coming to the zone redundant storage, it is exactly the same, but instead of storing the data in the local, it will be taking the copies of that particular data into 3 different zones. Every region has 3 different zones. So this, whatever the data you're copying to this particular storage, will be taken 3 copies into 3 different zones, so that even if one particular zone got issue with the power outage or some other disaster, your data is still safe in the other zone. So coming to the SLS, it's 12 lines. That's really great high availability. Across the 3 availability zones it is available, and it is protected against even zone failure. Coming to the GRS, in the second option, it is the redundant of the files happened in the 3 different zones. Coming to the geo, it will the copies will be taken locally. At the same time, the same copies copied to the other region as well, so that your high availability is at peaks. So if one particular region is completely down but your data is still safe in the other region, you can't directly access that particular data, but that is internally protected. Whenever the downtime happens, you can be still access that particular secondary data. That means that is internally happens. You can't directly access to that particular copy. But whereas read access your redundant storage, in this case exactly the same, whatever happens in the GRS, the same thing will happen. But here you can also read the data from the secondary location, secondary region, but it will be definitely expensive than the GRS because they are giving you the read access as well. Coming to the high availability, the 16 nines of the SLA is given, protect against regional disaster, and 3 copies locally and 3 copies in the other region. These are the 4 different options available for the storages. So you can check what options are again based on the type of storage you are selecting. These options may get changed. Anyway, during my demo I'll show you like how to create and what are the options available. In case if you want to calculate what is the downtime based on the SLA 9s, you can just, there are plenty of websites. I'm just showing one here. You can calculate here what is the downtime, 99.99. So you can see here 30 days means 29 days, 23 hours, 55 minutes and 41 seconds uptime. It's almost less than 5 minutes downtime in a month. So maybe 60 minutes in a year. That's a downtime of 4 nines. If you want to calculate 6 nines, these are the 6 nines. Calculate, you can see it's probably 3 seconds of the downtime if I'm not wrong. So this is how you can calculate your downtime based on the SLAs. Similarly, you can type 12 lines. It will be almost a few seconds in a year. So coming back to the presentation, yeah, let us look at the tiers. We have seen redundant options, and we also have different access tiers. This is also one of the influencing factor for your billing. If you are selecting hot, definitely it will be expensive, and the bill also will be hot compared to cold and archive. So hot is like when you have to use it. In case if you have a frequent access requirement to your data which is on the storage, definitely you should go with the hot tier. So it is optimized for storing data that is accessed very frequently. Whereas cold, if you have a requirement to access only once in a month, then you can go with the cold. That's like maybe once or twice, better cold. But you have very rare requirement to access your data, like say 180 days once, then you can go with the archive option. So it's literally to archive your complete data, probably in 1 year or 6 months. Once you will go and check or search for something, that kind of data can be archived or used. You can use archive tier under the storage. So you might have already got the clarity when to use these different tiers. Hot tier, when you have the data to be accessed so frequently, and then you can use it. Data that's staged for processing and eventual migration to the tool access tier. And coming to the cold, short-term backup and disaster recovery data sets, older media content not viewed frequently anymore, but is expected to be available immediately when accessed. So at a nutshell, if you don't have a frequent access requirement, definitely you can use the cold storage. But this tier is intended for data that will remain in the cool tier for at least 30 days. So this is the kind of agreement you are making when you are taking the cold storage. Many guys ask me like what happens when I don't keep the data for 30 days. Maybe like I accessed for the cold, but I terminated maybe within 15 days. Definitely there will be a penalty that may in the form of the invoice. So you have to check the billing difference. Definitely there will be a billing difference. So coming to the archive, when do you use? When you have a long-term backup, secondary backup and archival data sets, original data that must be preserved even after it has been processed into the final usable form for just precaution purpose. Then compliance and archival data that needs to be stored for a long time and is hardly ever accessed. So these are the different use cases for the access tiers. So next one, coming to the storage access tiers, this is a kind of comparison I'm making. What is the SLA for hot tier, cool tier, archive tier? You can also check on the Microsoft site. They have given clear comparison, and you can also check what is the latency. It's literally the milliseconds latency for hot and cool tiers, whereas archive tier definitely it's hours, as it's a archived data. Minimum object size not available. Minimum storage duration for the cool tier, that is a 30 days of agreement. Archive tier, if you are using it, definitely that's 180 days agreement. And usage charges, premium performance is definitely have a high charges, whereas hot tier second highest. The cool tier is cheaper compared to the other two tiers. So that's how it works. So data operations. Let us also have a look at data operations. When we are talking about the storage, this is another topic which we need to at least know what it is, right? So if you want to copy your data from your on-premises to the storages, so what are the data operations available? Like by using AZ copy, you will be able to copy in bulks to your storage. But again, there's a certain limit. Like I cannot take TBs of data, like 40 TBs of data to the storage by using AZ copy. But AZ copy is definitely for the bulk, but there are some limitations. So when it comes out, AZ copy is available in the form of exe. You can just directly open that and you can perform that AZ copy command to copy the data. This is available for Windows, this is available for Linux and Mac. Coming to the, okay, in case if you have a requirement where you need to move like 40 terabytes of data to the cloud, then it's very hard to imagine through express route or AZ copy or any other channel, right? That's where Microsoft also brought an option, Azure Data Box disk, where you can purchase that, and you can copy the data and hand over to the Microsoft guys will upload the data to the cloud. So if you have 40 terabytes of data, better you can go with the box disk. If you have 40 terabytes to 500 terabytes of data, then you can go with the Azure Data Box. But if you have more than that, like 500 terabytes of to maybe more than that, then you can go with the Azure Data Box Heavy. 2 independent nodes. For each node, there will be like 500 TB storage. Okay, but again, you need to check the limitations and what is the weight of the data box. Each data box weighs different, like I think data box disk weighs like 40 lbs or something like that. You have to check that, like what is the weight and what are the storages available on that. Every limitation you need to check, and then you can select the option in case if you are going to transfer the data to the cloud from your on-premises. Coming to the Azure Data Share. So Azure Data Share is a simple and safe service for sharing the big data to other organization or within your organization or within your organization to different groups. This is a best option to do that, and it got even APIs. So you can build your own application using the REST API. Coming to the Azure File Sync, we have already discussed about Azure file storage. So by using Azure File Sync, you will be able to sync your file server to Azure File Share, so that you will, that particular data will be able to access from anywhere. So this works on the SMB protocol. Let me show you in the graphical representation when and how those options will be useful. So you can see here, data box heavy can be used from 500 terabytes of data to 5 petabytes of data, whereas if you have 50 terabytes of data to 500 terabytes of data movement to the cloud, then you can simply use Azure Data Box. But if you have lower than that requirement, then you can use a Azure Data Box disk. Similarly, you have Azure Storage Explorer to copy the files directly from your desktop or from your local server to the Azure Blob storage or any other storage. And then you can also use Azure Portal, or you can also use AZ copy to copy this amount of data, small amounts of data. Azure small amount means compared to the 50 terabytes or 100 terabytes of data, definitely you can use Azure copy for that small chunks which is in maybe GBs and stuff. Azure Storage REST API is also available. You can access and you can upload the data to the storages, or you can download it from the cloud. So there are continuous ingestion, data box gateway. This is a database box gateway which you can continuously ingest your data to the cloud. Data box edge, Azure Data Factory is also another option to ingest your data to the cloud, or programmatic transfer, like you can again write your own programming by using AZ copy, or you can write your own program or application by using Azure Storage REST APIs. These are the different ways to upload or download the data to your various storage options. So I hope this will give you the clear picture how you can operate the data. Thanks for watching my videos. If you need any of my presentation, please mail to mallibeforeme@hotmail.com, and this is my Twitter handle, Facebook and LinkedIn. You can connect me anywhere, anytime. Thanks for watching my videos.